you've heard the term sister city, you probably wondered what the heck is a sister city? Tampa has more than one sister city. And there's a lot of serious stuff that goes on within this network of cities. And our speaker today is the head of the Tampa Sister Cities organization. Alfred Goldberg his day job is marketing, but his passion is Tampa Sister Cities. So please welcome Alfred Goldberg.
Thank you, Tom. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. Those of you who know me know I like to pace around, so being stuck in a box is not my comfort zone. So if you see me straying left or right, just try and direct me back. So as said, my name is Alfred Goldberg, and I am the current president of Tampa Sister Cities. And to the judge's point, nothing is paid. It's an all-volunteer organization. Occasionally we hear people say, I don't like those sister cities. Why do we continue to fund them? Well, you don't. So put that to rest right away. Our revenue, at least currently, comes from membership dues, and event tickets. That's our sole revenue at the moment. So there's no tax dollars really being spent on the Sister Cities program. So I came to Sister Cities in a roundabout way. Being Jewish and being the vice president at the time, chairman of Tampa Bay Way, which is a local technology incubator accelerator, I caught wind that there was a trip to Israel called the Startup Nation trip. It was based off of a book that had come out about a year prior. And Mayor Buckhorn was leading a group of local leaders to Israel to really look at how they're supporting entrepreneurship, specifically around different areas of entrepreneurship that could impact Tampa. Harry Cohen, at the time, City Councilman Harry Cohen, was also part of that trip. Jim Scherberger, who was city attorney at the time. And I remember the newspaper headline at the time really gave Mayor Buckhorn a hard time about that trip. It made it sound like a pleasure cruise. Ironically, at the time we got news of an article that was a little bit critical of the trip. We happened to be in the Jerusalem city dump, which is much like a city dump in any city in the world. Whether it's the Holy Land or Tampa, a dump smells like a dump. So we all got a big laugh at that. The headlines made it sound like we were lounging on the Dead Sea, when instead we were learning about how Jerusalem recycles its waste. But I didn't really think about Sister Cities too much after that trip, because my primary goal there was to be involved in the city's interest in entrepreneurship, because that was where really my passion was at. But I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed how we met with the mayor of Jerusalem, we met with the mayor of Ashdod, which is our sister city in Israel, and every person on that trip, the conversations were surrounding similarities between the cities, how they deal with certain issues, and how we might be able to apply those back home. And I thought, that's interesting. I thought Sister Cities was just kind of an informal agreement between cities. About a year after that, I was on the trade task force, International Trade Task Force for the EDC, and we were writing to a state of the port event, something like that. And Mayor Buckhorn asked if I'd be interested in representing Tampa in Porto Alegre, Brazil. And my first response was, why me? I mean, I'm not Brazilian, I don't speak Portuguese. And he said, well, your work at WAVE shows that you can really build organizations and make them sustainable and strong. And that's what I think we need with Sister Cities, because we have a vision for Sister Cities that it's not just a cultural club, if you will. It's really a driver of partnerships and economic exchange between our cities. And I said, okay, I'll do it, but after we get back, I'm going to find somebody who's actually from Porto Alegre who might be able to take over. So I went on that trip. We signed the agreement. That was in 2012. I immediately started immersing myself in the local Brazilian community and identified quite a few people from Porto Alegre, and recruited some to take over that committee. And I thought maybe that was it for me in Sister Cities. And that year they elected me president, and I've been president 3, maybe 4 times since then. The inside joke is I'm doing too much work and nobody else wants to do it. It used to be an easy job, and it's not anymore. Tom mentioned, you hear Sister Cities, you say, I kind of think I know what that is. I've heard of it. Is that new? How long have we had it? So I'm going to give a brief overview of Sister Cities. If you think back to the 1950s, there was no internet. There was limited television programming. Most people never left their home communities. International travel was something that was considered unusual, a luxury. So people didn't really know a lot about the world around them. And President Eisenhower and his advisors had a theory that we would have less war and more peace if regular citizens, regular people, got to know each other and experience other cultures. So in 1956, around September 11th, 1956, President Eisenhower initiated the Sister Cities International Program. And its goal was global peace through citizen diplomacy. And not every city jumped on board right away. It took a while, but the main seat of the program in Washington, D.C., and New York City, and some major metropolises have been planning. Around that time, around 1959, a local family on Bayshore were hosting an exchange student at Plant High School, and he came from Cordoba, Argentina. And just to show how unusual international cultural exchange was back then, every single thing this kid did was front page news in the Tampa Tribune. They were doing piano recitals, they were having birthday parties. It made the news because it was something different. And he graduated from Plant High because he was here as an exchange his senior year, and he returned to Argentina. And 2 years later, the family that hosted him, that became known as his foster family, were invited by the mayor of Cordoba, which is where he was from, to visit. And so they went on a trip throughout South America. They were sending letters back to the Tribune, and almost every day there was some write-up of their experience in South America. Again, showing no internet, we need to be entertained somehow. And this family's little trip in South America became it. They came back with a trunkload of gifts for our mayor from Cordoba, Argentina, as well as a request from that mayor who had caught wind of the Sister Cities program to become Tampa's first sister city. Our mayor, ironically at the time, I believe it was Julian Wayne, had recently talked to the mayor of Jacksonville, who had gotten their first sister city, and was touting how great it has been for business, for culture, for putting Jacksonville, on the map, so to speak, internationally, that Mayor Lane jumped for the opportunity. So Cordoba, Argentina became our first sister city in 1961. My wife is from Cordoba, Argentina, and I did not know it was a sister city. We were visiting and we were driving around and we were stopped at a light in a major part of town, and I looked out the window and the street we were on was named Ciudad de Tampa. And I said, City of Tampa, what is that about? And her father said, oh yes, we're sister cities. At that time I was already on the board of sister cities, and I thought to myself, no, we're not. I'm not going to say that, but that's a little odd. Nobody's ever talked about Cordoba, Argentina to me. So when I got back, I started doing research, and I found that you can be a sister city, but if there's not a lot of activity, there's not a lot of involvement, that sister city relationship may die. And it's a process that you don't want to happen, because over that many decades of a relationship, they have a street named after us. It's a shame to not have that relationship today. So I started looking into the history of the organization, understanding how it's changed over the years. And what I found was that 1961, Cordoba became our sister city. 1966, Barranquilla became our second sister city. We like to tout it as our oldest sister city. Mr. Fernando Falquez there is the current chair of the Tampa Barranquilla sister city relationship. I have to tell you, it is one of our most active relationships with numerous events throughout the year. Very strong relationship, not going anywhere. Our third sister city, another one I was not familiar with, the year I was born, 1976, Granada, Nicaragua, became a sister city to Tampa. That is one I have very little information about, except it's not one today. At the time, there was in those early days, Sister Cities was not a separate Tampa organization. It was largely run through partnerships between the city council, the mayor's office, and clubs like JC's. Barranquilla was actually started as a JC project. That's the Junior Chamber of Commerce, if you don't know. Cordoba, as I said, really was just an exchange student. So a lot of this, Rotary was very involved. Rotary International was very involved in the early days, but there was not a separate governing body of the local Sister Cities program. And in 1981, an organization was formed that was going to represent Tampa's relationship with all of our sister cities. And it was very active in 1982. A year later, we hosted the annual International Sister Cities Conference here in Tampa. Only time it's ever been held here. I would love to see it back because I think Tampa's changed a lot since 1982. I think we have a lot more to say on the international stage. This was a major conference. People came from all over the world. The governor of Florida, I think it was Bob Graham at the time, was one of the introductory speakers. And after that, I feel things in sister cities kind of slowed down. And this is where I'm going to talk about the change in community. People started traveling more. The value proposition, if you will, of sister cities, in my opinion, got lost. And a lot of these relationships kind of went dormant. Barranquilla, unfortunately, due to the 1980s heyday of drug trafficking and cocaine, the relationship with Barranquilla suffered. There was a write-up in the Tampa Tribune saying, you know, everyone has a sister that may have a strained relationship with, well, that's Tampa and Barranquilla. And I get mad when I read that today, but at 1980s, that could have been the case. Cordoba was under a military dictatorship. Adrian Garcia's father, a lot of you know Adrian Garcia, her father actually ran that committee, and communications weren't very good during the dictatorship. Granada, again, I didn't know it was a sister city. I don't know what happened to it. So things started to slow down. And then in the 90s, there was a resurgence, a new sister cities organization, same leadership. I'm not sure why they had to change, but the same leadership dissolved the original sister cities organization and created a new one. And that same year, we added 3 new sister cities. Now, these 3 are different than the earlier 3. The earlier 3, there was not a lot of connection prior to the forming of the sister city. The 3 new ones were based off where our cultural heritage of Tampa, Ybor City lie. So from the Spanish side, we had Oviedo, Spain, and Asturias. In the Sicilian, Italian side, we had Agrigento, Italy. And due to a lot of trade happening at the time and port and business interests, we got the hot ranks. So we went decades with only 3 sister cities, some of them dormant, and then in a year to 18 months, we added 3 new sister cities. And then things kind of just stayed with those 3 sister cities, where every year there'd be a trip to one of the 3. We would host dinners. It kind of became just a civic organization. Some people on the board got upset with me because I said that President Eisenhower did not want a dinner supper club or travel club. And that's about the time Bob came in. Well, before Bob, Hamilton did Ashdod, Israel. There was Izmir, Turkey. And then when Mayor Buckhorn came in and started working with the Chamber, the EDC, the ports, the University of South Florida, we started looking at how do we form sister cities? Why do we form sister cities? What was the original purpose of sister cities? How can we really involve the community? And we started being a little more selective as to who is a sister city. We started looking at things, do they have a port? Are there any existing relationships? Are they a similar size? A lot of people say, why are we sister cities in Barranquilla? It's not the most known city in Colombia. Why don't we have Bogota? Why don't we have, and I said, they're probably saying over there, why do we have Tampa? Why do we have Miami? I mean, it's silly because you really want a city of similar size with similar backgrounds, similar concerns, or you're not going to be able to have a meaningful long-term exchange. And so we got more selective about who became a sister city. We started forming partnerships with the port, with the university, with other cultural associations. So for example, Barranquilla, there's at least 5 or 6 different Colombian organizations in Tampa. We have a very large community from Colombia. And we thought, why should we be working alone? Why don't we form relationships with them, sign the MOUs, and figure out how we can all work together? And that has strengthened the program. And we do that with every potential sister city now. So every day, every week at least, I get a new request forwarded to me from City Hall where some mayor or some council member from some city somewhere in the road has made a request. By the way, I'm not checking time, so somebody might have to yank me off of here. Some request for another sister city, and it's becoming almost a full-time job. We're vetting these sister cities because the mayor doesn't just act on these. She turns over the request to our board. We ask representatives who brought it forward to come forward and we form an exploratory committee who then goes into the community and tries to find these relationships. Right now we have, I said, South Dublin, Berkeley and Crete, Porto Alegre, Brazil, Lanzhou, China. We had a friendship city of Acapulco that didn't go anywhere. A friendship city is like dating before marriage. That's also something that we introduced recently. Friendship cities have existed for a while, but Tampa seemed to never really pursue that. We just jump right into marriage. And I think that might be one of the reasons we have some dormant sister cities. So when Acapulco, Mexico, and the Consul General of Mexico was pushing very, very hard to have a sister city relationship, we agreed to do a friendship city, which has a 3-year lifespan. And if we don't form substantial programming between our cities in that 3 years, it just goes away. Unfortunately for them, they were struck by a major hurricane. We know a thing about hurricanes here in Tampa, and it decimated their city. I mean, they are very much a tourism city, so I'm not sure what's going to happen there. I know Visit Tampa Bay would like a relationship. We now have direct flights to Mexico to the airport, another partner of ours. So maybe we'll have this Mexican sister city, maybe not. We currently have 2 in the works, Ahmedabad, India, which is the capital of Gujarat. The Indian community, as you know, is very large as well, with a number of organizations. They've all come together to support this. There's a lot of power behind it. The 2 mayors have agreed to do this relationship, but now things are tied up in the Indians' federal system, so we're waiting for the final approval to make that happen. There's another one in Japan, Tokugawa. This is being led by Orestes Estrada, former Major League Baseball player. When he finished his U.S. career, he was, as they used to say, big in Japan. He was a star baseball player for the Seibu Lions, which is the baseball team of Tokugawa. USF has a strong relationship with Japan too, but this is an example of our process. We do not have a very large Japanese community here. And our mayor is wise enough to understand that despite interest from business groups, and although it looks great on paper, if we do not have a community of support, it will not last. So that is the biggest challenge facing any of our sister cities, the ones that are dormant and the ones that wish to become sister cities, is where is that support from the community. We also currently have an African search committee. Not any particular city, but many, many times there's been questions, why does Tampa not have a single sister city in Africa? And the Sister Cities International Washington has initiated a program called 500 new African sister cities in 5 years. So throughout the country, they are working with any major city that does not have an African sister city to support them in finding a city in Africa that is a good match in facilitating the conversations that could lead to a sister city agreement. So although we don't have any sister city in Africa selected for an exploratory committee, there is a Africa Search Committee active right now. So am I at 8? I see you.
Do what you want to do.
Well, I think that gives you a good overview of sister cities. The only thing I would add is it is a citizen-to-citizen program, Republican, Democrat. It doesn't matter. You're citizens of this country. You're citizens of this city. And historically, there has not been political, like outside of the city involvement or interference with sister cities. But in today's politicized world, we're seeing a lot more where, with the war in Gaza right now, some people are criticizing the fact that we have a sister city in Israel. Other people are criticizing why do we have a sister city in China. In fact, the head of the Florida Republican Party, I got a call from a reporter about a year ago asking for a response to a statement that every city in the state of Florida that has a sister city in China needs to either dissolve it immediately or explain to the people of Florida why we support espionage. Considering that's one of our dormant sister cities and the only activity we had other than a trip with USF that initiated the sister city was dinner at a local Chinese restaurant. I'm sure you've all eaten at. I don't think there's a lot of espionage going on between the wontons. This may be the case somewhere else, but that was not the case with Tampa. Right now, sister cities with Russia throughout the country, they're getting demands to dissolve those sister cities. And Sister Cities International had to issue a statement that this is the most important time to maintain a sister city relationship, when you have the ability to speak to people on the ground, not worry about the politics, but speak to the average people and give them your point of view. Let them know what America thinks about this war, because they're not getting it from the media. So that's the politicization of it. I hope that we can keep people outside of the municipal level, outside of our Sister Cities program. So I think we'll go to questions now.